Alright guys, hello and welcome. This is going to be a little bit of a quick video. I played this game a while back. This is Afterimage, and it's one that I enjoyed and I recently picked back up to see how it was kind of doing, because if you're anything like me, you buy some games and then you realize, I haven't played this one in a while because I cycled into something else. And this is one of the ones that I remember being pretty excited about, mostly because the art style is just so pretty. And I mean, it's a Metroidvania, and I'm kind of a sucker for those. So I jumped into it. I played a little bit more of it. I played a total of 4.1 hours. And I have to say, this game has beautiful art, beautiful style, great animations, but it does come at a price for all that. And what I mean by that is not the actual cost of the game, but more that there's a certain presence to it that doesn't quite hit that, you know, oh my god, I must buy this level of gameplay, which is not really harsh criticism, but I feel like with how good it looks, with how, you know, how excited I was to get it, it is a bit of a letdown. But it's one of those letdowns where I want to make sure that that's accurate, and I plan to do a full playthrough of it at some point. But right now I wanted to just talk about it briefly because I played it a little bit. A few of the other games I played aren't quite ready for review yet because I have to think a little bit more about them. But this one had a little bit more of a presence, and I'll be honest, I've been playing FF7 Rebirth because it's been out, and I will be doing a Dragon's Dogma review once that comes out for Dragon's Dogma 2, because that is a very fun game, and I love Dragon's Dogma 1. So that is going to be coming out pretty soon. So sorry about this being a little bit late, but I wanted to get something out here, make sure my channel stays somewhat consistent. Because I'm trying to work on pacing and all that kind of stuff. Anyways, what I have to say about this game is it came out April 25th, 2023, and it's had a few updates, a lot of balancing updates, like just a lot of like weapon changes, effect changes that I saw. But another nice thing they did is they added some free DLC, so I have to give them credit. This seems to add a sort of special mode where you play as the main character or two other characters, which I don't know their significance in the story too much, but they do seem to play very differently. And in this mode, if you beat bosses and you do well, you apparently can unlock costumes that you can use in the main game or in that other sub-game. Honestly, that sounds pretty cool. I like the idea of getting different costumes. You know, I probably will try to do that a little bit so that I can actually use those costumes in the main game. I don't know how much replayability there is in this, but you know, I would like to have the cool looks for when I'm actually playing. I kind of dislike it when, you know, the last thing you do is get all these crazy costumes, which a lot of JRPGs like to do, and a lot of other games in that genre or that are copying that idea tend to do, which I'm sure a lot of you are frustrated by too. Now, my thing with this is the gameplay is good, but it feels like it is lacking certain things that you'd want. For example, it takes apparently till near the end game to get invincibility on your dash so that you can actually dodge things like that, which, while partially understandable, is a bit frustrating in this kind of game. Thankfully, spacing is functional and you can keep enemies away from you with weapon attacks, so I don't really feel it's a massive problem, but it does feel a bit bad when you're really used to that. Otherwise, though, movement feels okay. You definitely run into a lot of areas where you're like, okay, I can't reach that because I can't double jump. I can't reach that because I can't slide. I can't reach that because I can't do this, which is typical in Metroidvanias. But you know, I think the saturation of them can get a little frustrating the first few times you go through it. I always have that problem, though. That's probably more of a me thing where I'm just like, come on, please let me get here. But you know, it's okay. The storyline is just not that great. It's unfortunate to say that because, I mean, you can probably hear a little bit. There is some voice work that's going on. It's not like it's bad. I'm gonna turn it up for a second.
Do you know where this path?
But it's not. While it does happen a lot, and you do talk quite a bit, the story is very hard to follow. I guess there's no better way to put that. To the point where I see multiple reviews also going with this. I wanted to make sure I wasn't just, you know, having a complete brain fart and maybe I just dropped my brain off and didn't bring it with me to the gameplay. But no, like a lot of people talk about how it's really hard to follow. People just don't get it. There's some people who are like, yeah, I beat the game and I tried to understand everything, but it just really didn't make any sense. I don't know why what happened. Which is, you know, that's a bit unfortunate. You know, you don't really want to hear that. Especially when everything else seems so good around it and it's voiced. I mean, that's, you know, that's a lot of work. Some people even said it feels like an AI wrote this, and like, you know, maybe that's translation issues, but it is unfortunate. So that does hurt the game, especially when there's quite a bit of story going on as you go through it. Quest descriptions can be a bit rough, so following your little quest description can be kind of hard to tell what you actually need to do or where you need to go for certain things, which can be frustrating. I don't love it when games are like that. I like finding things out. I don't mind a game being a little cryptic or making things hard to find. That is okay. What I don't enjoy too much, though, is when I'm trying to find it out, I'm reading the little description, I'm like, where do I go? Or what area is this? Where am I supposed to be? That can be quite a bit frustrating to me. So that is a little bit of a problem. The world, though, is very big, which kind of makes that mini-map problem a little bit more of a problem than it could be. There's a lot of different places to go, a lot of verticality. There's elevators all over the place. It takes a while to get anywhere. One thing I noticed as I was traversing was just that I was a little frustrated that I couldn't go a little faster. I wish I had like a sprint, or that I had some kind of method to get around just a bit quicker. Maybe you eventually get something to aid in that. And I don't mind, like, I don't mean like fast travel and all that kind of stuff. I just mean getting from place to place. The world is really expansive, which can be good, but I feel like if you don't let the player move through that quickly, it can be just a little bit of a slog. Knowing where to go is also kind of a difficulty, because there are so many branching paths, and you end up kind of going down one route until you hit a wall and you're like, okay, I got to go back and find another path. And while I don't mind that in a sense, I kind of wish there was more of a clear, like, here's the main path of progression we want you to go in, and then here's all these little side areas, and maybe like a recommended level. Something like that would have been kind of nice. The main character, the characters that are involved, they're okay. I feel like they're very basic. You know, you have your typical little mascot flying character who's a little snooty. You have your main character who's a little bit more stoic. You know, she's very serious. She seems okay, but nothing really stands out. Enemy variety at the point that I played isn't that like cool, but it does feel like everything's very manageable. You can see there's traps and stuff like that. It all feels relatively fair to go through it. Sometimes there are frustrating placements like you just saw there, where you kind of are trying to dash around and there's an enemy there and you just kind of bounce off of them. There is contact damage, which is one of my least favorite types of damage. I say that with some degree of gritted teeth, but you know, with the way the game works, if it's balanced around it, it can function. I tend to find that longer range weapons, like bigger swords, and I think a whip is what I start using later, are the things I liked most to use, because you had a little more range to play around with, and hitting harder just kind of feels good. But you know, I can't say that any of the weapons particularly stood out to me as phenomenal feeling. One thing that also sort of frustrates me is the way like the weapon trees work. So you would think, oh, I can focus on one weapon and just get really good at that. Like, oh, I like the great sword, so I'll just stick with that, please. What I ended up finding was that you get new weapons as you open different chests, and those will be like updated and way stronger. Now, in a way, this encourages you to use all the weapons, because, hey, you know, what's the point of using your big greatsword if your dagger does more damage because you have the latest dagger, but the latest greatsword doesn't come until a little bit later? It's a little frustrating, but it does get you to experiment, so there's some positives to that. What I dislike about this system, though, is this is also coupled with a really weird leveling up system. So let me see if I can... Yeah, so here, perfect. I definitely knew where to click, and I didn't just get randomly lucky. here you can see this whole thing, which looks super complicated, but really it's not as complicated as it looks. What this is in essence, you can go a little bit into the tree. I'm going to pause right here so you can kind of see. You can see here, it requires Renee, or I think Renee is the right way to say it. I mean, I have a cousin that's named that, so that's why I'm saying it like that. It might be Reen. They might say Reen in there. I don't remember exactly how it's said. Anyways, the point is this. You have to hit a certain level point in all of these trees to get anywhere. And basically each tree is just a different weapon, because there's a lot of different weapons you can choose. You have your main weapon, your sub weapon, and then like a magic spell. Your sub weapon is basically just another main weapon just put on your offhand, and it functions exactly the same. So that's kind of nice. There's little techniques that go with each of these weapons, which is cool, because then you start to say, oh, I could have some gameplay actually going on. You know, I get some new attacks. It can be kind of exciting. You get some basic like passive upgrades too, but you can see a lot of it is like sword attack plus 4. That's specifically just for that. So it only applies to that sword. You do get some elemental bonuses randomly as you go through these trees, but they're very much focused on either the weapon or giving you small stat increases. They are level limited though, so in essence, you're putting a lot of points into things you might not really want to use. Like let's say you don't like one of the weapons. Well, all the talent points you put into it aren't really benefiting you if you're not in that weapon, because a lot of them are like, you know, +2 to this weapon or +3 to this weapon. Which can be a little bit frustrating, I would say. It really just depends, of course, on the weapon type you're talking about, because some of them do have, let me see if I get like a nice like look at it here. This is dashing. Of course, I had to be clicking very slowly at this point. But anyways, you get the point. They're focused on you know, these sorts of traits, which are very small incremental bonuses, and that you can't get to the good stuff soon. So if you really like the scythe, you can't be like, oh, I'm going to build and make myself really good at the scythe. And even if it's a little weaker, I can make it like enjoyable. No, you kind of just have to wait. And yeah, it's just, I have to say that isn't very exciting to play around with, because you get stuck with very bare bones attacks. Some weapons, you know, you have to wait a longer time to get something that really makes them come into their own. I wasn't a huge fan of this. It also just looks so complicated when it's really quite simple. I think sometimes some developers put a lot of time into making a tree that looks like you have a million choices, but with those million choices, none of them matter. So that can be a little bit of a pain. Let me see if I have some boss footage here. I don't think I have any boss footage in this video, but I might have some in my other ones. Let me see here. Let me minimize you. Let me open you. Let's see, did I do anything interesting here? Because I want to at least show off what that's kind of like. Oh, here's some random NPC I met, because, you know, that's how that goes. I know there was a boss around. Some different enemies. Here's a one boss, yeah, which was a bit of an odd boss. So I didn't know this was a boss fight going into it. I was using the scythe at this point because it was also a pretty long range and quick weapon. So this boss ended up being a bunch of these goats, which were a little annoying, and then a giant goat comes out, so a little levity. Now I knew what I had to do here, which was get up onto those jumping platforms to get myself safe, but I kept having trouble because, you know, no double jump, you have to really be very methodical. Every time I would decide, oh, I'm going to go attack down here, the boss would change its pattern up, which is not bad design. I mean, it did keep me on my toes. Different things were happening. So that wasn't too terrible. But it was a little bit frustrating to be like, oh, I got to get up there. Oh, now the boss is bouncing all over the place. Okay, so now I got to worry about that pattern. Okay, this is changing. That's dynamic. It's good. It's an early boss fight, so, you know, I can't say too much about it, but I enjoy the feel of it. Having some degree of mechanic and extra thought beyond just slash a lot is not a bad thing. There are some weak translations in this. I think that's, you know, an issue here. A lot of different characters, a lot of a colorful world, but overall, I just want to kind of put this out here and say, you know, my impressions of this are, after some updates, it seems like it's gotten a little better. It is very pretty. I am going to try and beat it. There is a lack of something to it that really captures me, but I have a feeling this is going to be something that turns out good eventually. So this is going to be more of a first impressions. I'm going to play through this eventually and go more in detail about what I think about it and have a lot more footage and probably be better at it at that point. But I just kind of wanted to put this out there, see if people are interested in this game. I mean, I know I don't have too many people watching, but you know, I just think it's one of those ones that I don't want to let be completely forgotten. I want to give it a fair shake. There's a few other games that I'm thinking about putting in here. I like to look at games like this that are maybe not as massive as some others, not as like AAA as some, although I will play AAA games. You know, let me know what you think about that. If you want me to play like a specific game, if there's a series you're like, man, nobody ever gives this a fair chance, or no one talks about this, I would like to talk about it a bit. In general, I tend to do like a little review at 4 hours, and then I usually do a longer one if I beat it. Where I go like where I do a complete review, where, you know, I state clearly that I finished it. These are, I guess, more like first impressions, but, you know, I think that's a good start. Anyways, I'm gonna leave it at that. This is kind of a quick review. I am very excited about Dragon's Dogma 2 coming out, so I will be making a video about that next, as I will definitely have a lot more footage, and it's a little bit more recent, and it's sort of why I was a little slower about this review this week. I was trying to finish up some Final Fantasy stuff, which I still haven't finished. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm not going to do a review on that one because I don't have footage for it, because I play it on obviously not the PC, and I don't have a capture card for that. But regardless, I will talk to you guys some more. Just wanted to put something out here for everybody, let you guys know I exist, and because I will eventually finish this game up, and I kind of like it. So anyways, well, that's all. You all take care.